Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. My name is Milo Carter, and last month, on the morning of my 39th birthday, I walked into my kitchen expecting a quiet start to the day. Coffee, maybe a text from a friend, and the usual silence that had filled my marriage for the past year. What I didn't expect was Piper, my wife, sitting at the table with a glossy white envelope in her hand and a smile so sharp it could cut glass. "Happy birthday," she said, pushing the envelope toward me with a little flick of her wrist. "Your present." I already knew it wasn't a card. Piper hadn't written me a birthday card since our 3rd year of marriage. I opened the envelope anyway because habit is a powerful thing, and because part of me still hoped, stupidly, that maybe she'd remembered who we used to be. Inside was a divorce packet. She started laughing before I could even react. Not nervous laughter. Not embarrassed laughter. Actual amusement. As if this were some elaborate joke and I was supposed to applaud her for creativity. "I figured you'd thank me," she said, leaning back in her chair. "You've looked miserable for months." "That's an interesting way to say hello," I replied, setting the papers down carefully, like they were made of glass. "Oh, come on, Milo. Be an adult. This is good for both of us." She sipped her orange juice like she had just handed me a gift card to a restaurant, not a legal severing of a decade. I didn't argue. The truth was our marriage had been a slow freeze. No affairs that I knew of, no major blowout fights. Just coldness. Piper had grown into someone I didn't recognize. Sharp-tongued, impatient, easily irritated by everything I did, from breathing too loudly to asking how her day was. I'd become an inconvenience she couldn't be bothered to hide her resentment for. Still, seeing divorce papers presented with a smirk on my birthday stung in a way I can't fully describe. Before I could decide whether to laugh or cry, someone else walked into the kitchen. Lennon, Piper's younger sister. If Piper was warmth turned ice, Lennon was everything her sister had never been. Soft-spoken, kind, a little chaotic in a charming way. She was the type who left a trail of mismatched socks and half-read books everywhere she went. She also happened to be breathtakingly beautiful, in an effortless, sun-through-curtains kind of way. She froze when she saw the papers on the table. Then she shot Piper a look I'd never seen her give anyone. "You did not," Lennon said, her voice tight. "Oh, relax," Piper answered. "He'll be fine. He's been wanting out anyway." I wasn't sure whether that was true, but I didn't correct her. There didn't seem to be a point. Lennon walked behind my chair, placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, and bent down. Not close enough for Piper to notice anything unusual, but close enough that her breath brushed my ear. And then she whispered the sentence that would change my entire life. "Sign it, and I finally get to date you." I froze. Completely. For a moment I thought I'd imagined it. Lennon had always been affectionate, always kind, but never inappropriate. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't the kind of woman who would steal attention just to cause pain. So why did she say that? Before I could think, she straightened up and stepped away, returning to the island counter like nothing had happened. Piper didn't notice a thing. She was too busy scrolling through her phone. My pulse hammered in my throat. Lennon avoided looking at me, but her cheeks were pink, and she bit her lip. The same nervous habit she'd had the first day I met her, years ago, when she dropped a bowl of pasta on my shoes and apologized 6 times before laughing at herself. "You okay, Milo?" she asked, her tone deliberately neutral. Piper didn't even look up. I stared at the papers again. Divorce. On my birthday. Delivered with laughter. Then I glanced at Lennon, who was looking at me now, quietly, like she wanted me to read something in her eyes. And for the first time all year, something inside me felt warm instead of numb. I picked up the pen from the table. Piper finally noticed. "You're signing now? That fast?" I clicked the pen. "Yes," I said. "Right now." I signed every page without hesitation, without bitterness, without fear, because maybe my marriage had been cold for years, but in that moment, signing felt like stepping out into sunlight after forgetting what warmth even was. And Lennon, she smiled just the tiniest bit, enough to tell me I hadn't imagined a thing. When I placed the signed packet back on the table, Piper blinked like she'd expected a fight, not compliance. Maybe she'd imagined shouting, accusations, or tears. Something dramatic to feed the story she'd eventually tell her friends. What she didn't expect was calm acceptance. She didn't expect me to look relieved. Her smile faltered. "Well," she said, clearing her throat, "that was easier than I thought." "It usually is," I replied quietly. "When something's already over." She didn't like that answer. I could see it in the way her jaw tightened, the way her eyes narrowed for just a moment. For years, she'd held all the emotional power. Coldness is its own kind of control. But in that kitchen, that grip slipped. I pushed the papers toward her. She slid them into her bag without looking at me again. "Good luck, Milo," she said, grabbing her keys. "I'll have my attorney reach out." And just like that, she walked out of the house without a second glance. No goodbye, no apology, no acknowledgement that she had ended a 10-year marriage before breakfast. The door shut with a hollow thud. Lennon waited a few seconds before speaking. "You okay?" she asked softly. I finally exhaled. "Strangely, yes." She stepped closer, studying my face as if trying to read the parts of me I'd kept hidden for months. "I'm sorry she gave it to you like that. On your birthday. It was cruel." "It's fine," I said, though it wasn't. "At least it's done." "It shouldn't have been done like that," she insisted. "You didn't deserve that kind of ending." I didn't know what to say, so I nodded. Silence filled the room again, but it wasn't the same silence I'd grown used to. This one felt gentle, not suffocating. After a moment, Lennon hesitated, then asked, "Do you want breakfast?" "I was going to make pancakes." "I can leave if you'd rather be alone." I should have said no. I should have said I needed space. That would have been the responsible, safe answer. But all I felt was the strange, warm memory of her whisper. "Pancakes sound good," I said. Her shoulders relaxed slightly, like she'd been holding her breath too. She moved around the kitchen with easy familiarity, cracking eggs, humming a tune, opening cabinets without having to ask where anything was. It struck me how many mornings she must have spent visiting, quietly filling this house with a softness Piper never noticed. We sat at the counter while she cooked. I expected awkwardness, but there was none. It was peaceful. For the first time in months, I felt human again. When she set the plate in front of me, she finally asked the question hanging in the air. "Milo, did you mean it? Signing that fast?" "Yes," I said. "I think I've been ready for a long time." She nodded slowly. "Good." Her relief was subtle, but unmistakable. We talked for hours about everything and nothing, about how I'd been sleeping on the edge of the bed for months, about how she'd tried to convince Piper to go to counseling, about how she hated watching her sister treat me like I was disposable. And then, after a long stretch of silence, she spoke the truth neither of us had dared acknowledge. "I meant what I whispered," she said quietly. "I felt this way for a long time. I just never thought there'd be a right moment to say it." I stared at her, stunned by the courage it must have taken for her to admit that out loud. "Lennon," I started, but she shook her head. "You don't have to say anything right now. I know today is complicated. I know this is messy." She looked down at her hands. "I just wanted you to know I wasn't joking. Not even a little." I reached across the counter and placed my hand over hers. Her breath caught, but she didn't pull away. "You were the first person in this house to make me feel seen in years," I said. "And the only person who asked if I was okay." Her eyes lifted, bright and honest. "I always saw you, Milo. I just didn't think I had the right to say so." It was strange, realizing that the person who cared the most had been standing in the background the entire time, quietly offering warmth while I froze in someone else's shadow. By the time afternoon light stretched across the kitchen tiles, the day didn't feel like a birthday ruined. It felt like a beginning I never expected. A few hours later, Lennon stood at the door, keys in hand. "If you need anything," she said, "or if you just want company, call me. Please." "I will," I promised. And I meant it. She hesitated for half a second, then rose on her toes and pressed a soft kiss to my cheek. It wasn't romantic, not exactly. More like a promise that neither of us fully understood yet. When she left, I looked at the empty doorway, at the divorce papers gone from the table, at the half-eaten pancakes cooling on the counter. And I realized something simple, something freeing. Today wasn't the day my marriage ended. It was the day my life began again. And for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely, undeniably happy.